Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And may I begin by congratulating you on the immense courage that you have displayed in convening this India-Pakistan meeting at this very sensitive time. I think people like you are making a greater contribution to India-Pakistan than the entire set of politicians, diplomats, and military people on both sides of the border. So I really want to commend you for this initiative. I want to continue by saying that I have listened very carefully to the other speakers, other than my friend Qazi, Ashraf Jahangir Qazi, whose speech took place before I came in. So let me base my remarks on what I have heard. First, I think the most constructive statement or suggestion that has come today has come from Sadiq Saab, the MLA from Jammu, that it is not only India that could take an initiative, but Pakistan too that could take the initiative. Do they want dialogue? In which case, since it was they who broke diplomatic relations in 2009, would they be prepared to restore diplomatic relations? Because that would be the first step towards any kind of meaningful dialogue. I also would like to endorse Air Marshal Clark's plea for us to be realistic. That is the need of the hour. We are all of us idealists. We've all got ambitions that are vaulting, but we have to understand that there are constrictions at present. And above all, recognizing that, to not go down false paths. And here I would beg to disagree with both Air Marshal Clark and our friend, the distinguished MLA of Jammu Kashmir, that the Shimla Agreement's bilateralism has run its course. At the end of the day, it is for India and Pakistan to decide that they will talk. Do we not have the capacity to decide that we will talk? How can any third party get us to do what neither of us wants at the moment and which both of us should want at the moment? At the end of the day, this is a bilateral matter, and bringing in any external force, as we ourselves have discovered on the Kashmir issue, is to bring in interests that promote their own views and do not give space for the two principles to talk to each other. I would commend instead the expression Miyan Babi Bibi Razi, to kya karega Qazi? We do need Ashraf Jahangir Qazi, but we don't need a Qazi to intervene between India and Pakistan. I think it should remain bilateral. And for it to remain bilateral, I think we should not let ourselves be caught in international endorsements as Indian foreign policy is currently oriented towards. Please let us remember that within 48 hours of what happened in that meadow near Western Meadow, near Pahalgam, the UN Security Council convened of its own accord. We didn't convene it. The UNSC convened. The UNSC includes a permanent member with a veto, Pakistan. And among the non-permanent members of the UN Security Council is, sorry, I should have said China, is Pakistan. And this permanent member with a veto and a non-permanent member without a veto, all completely agreed to damn and condemn the terrorist attack in Pehlavam. Pakistan was a signatory to that remark. Furthermore, the UNSC press release specified that the sponsors, the financiers, those who supported it, those who provided the arms, should, quote, all be brought to justice. China, Pakistan agreed to it. The Indian mission in New York was doing its work, trying to persuade the permanent and non-permanent members to at least indicate or hint at who had sponsored, who had financed, who had armed, who had supported the terrorists who came in. They wanted some indication that they should be Pakistan. But the Security Council did not oblige. And after that, although we had appealed everywhere, sent out MPs delegations, instructed our missions to talk to their governments of accreditation, tried to get formulae pushed in SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in BRICS, in the extended ASEAN, at whichever forum we could get, to move them beyond the language of the UN Security Council. Nobody except one has obliged us. At the time of the Bangladesh War, Liberation War, we were in a similar position. But then Mauritius was with us. Didn't matter. Mauritius was with us. Bhutan was with us. Maldives was with us. This time there is not a single voice in South Asia, anywhere in Asia, indeed anywhere in the world, except for one country, that has categorically said that Pakistan was behind the attack. And the whole point of our diplomacy is not to get terrorism condemned. That has been happening since 2001, since the terrorist attack on the Twin Towers. For the last 24 years, the world has agreed that terror is a terrible thing. Our attempt was to get Pakistan either named or at least hinted at. Instead, we have seen Pakistan being not included in the blacklist and indeed dropped from the grey list of the Financial Action Task Force. We have seen the IMF and the World Bank both generously bailing out the Pakistani economy. We have seen both China and the United States of America bilaterally increasing their aid and assistance to Pakistan. We've also seen that the Pakistan Air Force has been extremely competently not only equipped but also trained by the Chinese to take us on. Which is why, although there is an admission that losses are inevitable in combat, there is no indication of what those losses were. At the time of Kargil, to just take one example, at the time of Kargil, all those who were martyred were given military funerals in their home villages at the Shamshan Ghat. We were confessing to it. When squadron leader Nachiketu was brought down, did we hide it? At the time when we were confronted with pattern tanks of the United States in the 1965 war, we revealed that we had the ability to take on the pattern tank, not because the Patton tank was not superior to our tanks, but because the Pakistanis had not been properly trained and they did not properly deploy the tanks. With the result that we were able to capture the tanks and create a tourist spot called Patton Nagar for the delectation of Indian tourists. So, confessing what happened is very, very important. And in addition, we see that the Chinese are exulting in their power, and the French are desperately asking their envoys to try and defuse what they call the propaganda being put out by the Chinese. So we have to understand in India that we are going to conduct not a two-front war against Pakistan and China, which had happened in 1965 and in 1971, when the Pakistanis were hoping for a pincer attack across the Himalaya, which never happened. Today, the Chinese are on the Indus Plain. They were sitting with their Pakistani counterparts while conducting their riposte to Operation Sindhu. And we did suffer losses, which we are not willing to disclose. So do we want a one-front war? Do we want to work towards a one-front war? Or should the alternative be two-front diplomacy? If we can talk to the Chinese, and we are talking to them, and we are boasting about them, why can't we talk to puny little Pakistan? If you have the guts to conduct surgical strikes against Pakistan, if you have the guts to undertake an airstrike in Malakot, if you have the guts to destroy 9 terrorist camps in 23 minutes just after midnight on the 7th of May, why don't you have the guts to talk to the Pakistanis? What's the problem? So I think I'm being utterly realistic, begging your pardon, in seeking a dialogue. And in seeking that dialogue, I would draw attention to Kushit Kasuri's book, when Vajpayee ji not only permitted the Hurriyat to consistently talk to the Pakistanis whenever there was a delegation or leaders who came into Delhi, but indeed encouraged the Hurriyat to send a delegation to Pakistan. And the net result of that is that Kasuri says in his book that the most difficult Kashmiri dealt with, the most difficult Hurriyat leader that he dealt with, was Sayyid Gilani. He says so. So we have to recognize that the Kashmiris have to be kept informed. They can be kept informed by the Pakistanis, and we can easily keep them informed. Of course, the Hurriyat today is not what it was at that time. But we have to keep the people of Kashmir informed. And we have to keep the people of Kashmir on our side, which means that we have to restore statehood to them. We have to restore not only democracy to Kashmir, but also the dignity that Kashmiris long for. They need to have democracy restored to them. They need to have security restored to them. And you cannot build a tunnel and say that that is what the Kashmiris are looking for. But what the Kashmiris are looking for is what the Kashmir. May I just finish that? What the Kashmiris are looking for is the removal of soldiers with AK-47s from every street corner. They are looking for self-respect. And until we give that to them, the problem will be even more complicated. I would just like to end by endorsing what Kasuriji said, that there is a basis for resolving the issue of Kashmir, and that is what I call the Manmohan Musharraf formula. and Kasuriji referred to as the 4-point formula. In fact, Kasuri's own book shows that it was not a 4-point formula, but closer to a 14-point formula. So instead of using Musharraf's expression, I suggest we use the expression I have suggested. The Manmohan-Musharraf formula can form the basis of a resolution of issues, of the most acute issue between us and Pakistan. Unfortunately, another one has cropped up, and that is water. And I agree with Mr. Kasuri that it is far more likely that we go to war over water than we go to war over Kashmir. And in these circumstances, talking about water is also necessary. And I just don't see why a great big country like India, which is going to be the third largest economy in the world very shortly, cannot talk to a country that is in severe economic and political trouble and is infected with terrorism, as the figures that we just heard demonstrate that there are more than 3,500 losses to terrorism in Pakistan, whereas our losses are in the amount of 500 or so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Raghavan Saab, when would you like to speak? I'll request Mr. Ansari to speak for 3-4 minutes, and then a Pakistani and you. Is that all right? Or you